You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello everyone, thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
Welcome back, everyone. I get to start us off this week. I've been thinking a little bit about this in this particular upcoming holiday that we have. So, like,
which one would that be?
There's a holiday?
Yes. Is Valentine's Day is coming up.
Oh, that one. And that is indeed coming up.
Yeah, and I'm sure that all of us have some sort of plan, whether we know what it is currently or not, or if, like, or at least for the three of us, we're all in serious relationships. Like, you two are both married. And
not to each other, but
no, not to each other.
Well,
but you are both married. So here's a somewhat, like,
correct.
If you are comfortable, like, how did you exactly snag your partner? Because I'm going to tell the story of how I snagged my partner, and yeah.
Wow, this is going a different direction.
Wow, we're getting personal.
Just a little.
Well, it's a really quick version. Basically, was that we met in college, and I heard her talking about ska bands, which were really hot at the time, which sort of ages me a little bit. And I didn't know what ska music was at the time, but I did know that one of my friends had just mentioned that who was a drummer, had just joined a new band that was a ska band. So when I heard her talking about that, I was like, "Hey, I got a friend who's a drummer in a ska band." And she's like, "Really?" And then that was my in to hit off the whole conversation. So I'm not going to say it started with a lie. It just started with me, bringing up a mutual topic that I knew nothing about.
Fabulous.
Well, my husband and I met actually at a museum.
What a nerd.
Aww.
Yeah, we are nerds. It was a natural history
museum
in a minerals exhibit. So that's just...
Minerals exhibit.
Yeah.
Oof.
Amazing.
I mean, exciting,
hardcore.
But wow.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little fun story about how I snagged my partner. We've been dancing around each other for a little while. Like, we've been going out on dates for, like, at this point, actual months. All right. But neither of us had gone to the point where we're, like, asking each other to be each other's girlfriends. And because we were both just so nervous. And so one of these dates, literally 4 months into dating. So doing great. We were at just super casual. Yeah. So one of these dates at the end, I turned to her and I walked her to her car, which is something that we had been doing like every time. And we had our first kiss, and I, no joke, immediately afterward, and apparently she does not remember this, I, like, went down into, like, a full-on lunge, like, facing away from her. This is in November underneath the streetlight in Minneapolis, and was like, "Hey, want to be my girlfriend?" And apparently she honestly doesn't remember this. She was just very excited about the fact that, oh my gosh, she asked me to be her girlfriend. And my brain is immediately like, oh my God, why am I doing this weird lunge away from her?
Wait, so you did explain this lunge away. I'm not following that.
This was just a weird body movement that you did?
Yep. What you're picturing is exactly what happened. I quite literally, like, bent one knee, went way low to the ground, away from her, put my fists on my, like, hips. It was like, "Hey, wanna be my girlfriend?"
Okay, I can
That's super awkward.
Yes, it is.
400% picture you doing that, however. So
100%.
Totally fits the bill.
Exactly. And the best, I mean, to be fair, she did say yes. And she doesn't remember this,
Okay.
but this is seared into my brain. And with Valentine's Day coming up, it's just made me think about that story and how important it is to how we attract people and get further in our relationships. And I wanted to think about how different animals are attracting mates as well and attracting their partners. Sure. And there's one that's been on my list for a while. A lot of lunging. But there's one that has been on my list for a while that we haven't talked about yet, and it has a wild way to attract the ladies. So, Kirk, you might have actually seen this. They actually do exist here in Minnesota. They are in the prairies, and they're a little bit further west as well, in like the Dakotas. It's a bird, as you might imagine.
I'm interested.
I know which bird.
You probably do. So this particular bird has a really interesting courtship display. This bird has like really dark feathers and really spiky like tail feathers, except for the males have a really bright white chest feather that just is very fluffy. And how they attract a female is they strut themselves. They also have a very special chest spot that has sacs that they inhale enough air, up to a gallon of air, to then proceed to like make funny noises and things. So we'll get into that. This bird is the greater sage grouse.
So cool. So cool.
So they're really, really cool. The females are the ones that do choose the male that is able to dance the best. So they have a very special collar around their necks of sorts of feathers. And it is this giant sac, pretty much, that they're able to fill air, or they're able to inhale, fill the sac, and keep going until it's full, pretty much, up to a gallon of air. And what they'll do is they will swish their wings and let out a series of really low cooing sounds and then create 2 popping sounds with a whistle. And as like the big finish, ready to woo all of the females, what they'll do, they raise their head and let out another sound. But when they're inhaling the air and everything, these sacs kind of pop out of their like neck feathers. The nice way that I've seen it described is it looks like 2 pairs of sunny side up eggs on the front of this bird.
Yep. Yeah, that's a pretty good description.
Mm-hmm.
Out of curiosity, what's the not nice way?
Boobs.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's not nice.
No, it's not nice. But the like more kid friendly looks like sunny side up eggs.
Gotcha.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So they just have this beautiful dance that they do. Now, this bird is larger than like a ringneck pheasant, but it is smaller than a turkey. Okay. So as someone who's met grouse in the wild, they're not
such an odd phrase. Okay. Yeah.
The brightest birds out there.
Okay.
I have opinions. But these birds are endangered, and they are quite beautiful. And the males do strut, and they will spend hours dancing for the females to get their attention and approval. As their name suggests, these are generally in like sagebrush steppe area, in like the more western, around like the Rocky Mountains, like I said earlier, like the Dakotas, Nebraska, and that kind of area. They're really they're really widespread in those plains, but because they're plains, they're really popular to become farms and everything. So they do not have a ton of like habitat, which is causing some issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really wanted to talk about this just strange. I'll see if I can put a video up on our Instagram and Facebook. Just because, and if you want to listen and are on this platform, our Tumblr. But they're displaying that they do this dance can last for hours. And the males all do this in large groups. So they're competing with each other actively. And they actually, generally speaking, will do this in about the same place every year if they're able to. Because what they'll...
a lek, they call it?
Yeah, they call it a lek.
They're like, dance off, bro. Dance off.
Yeah,
Let's go.
It's like, all right, let's go. Yeah,
Pretty
so
cool.
It's really fun because they're pretty much like, they puff out their chest and they quite literally fill these 2 yellowish air sacs and then to keep going. And then they spread their tail, they drop their wings, and then they throw their head back and just keep making noises and dancing. And whoever is, I guess, the prettiest and makes the best sound and has the best display gets the female.
What lady
cool.
could resist?
Not all that different than a night downtown at the clubs.
Exactly.
Or Rachel asking
under
her girlfriend.
in a
girlfriend.
weird lunge underneath the streetlight in Minneapolis.
You only had to do 1 lunge. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
It did sound like it was 4 months of preparatory work before that one big lunge, but yeah.
It absolutely was. And it was, I wooed her with my weird nature facts. She has said to me that she has learned more about nature being with me in general than any other time of her life. So, love
There
you.
go. Rachel is teaching about the birds and the bees.
Oh
Good
my
to know.
God. Anyway, so that's all I have for you today. I just want to talk a little bit about the courtship display of the greater Sage Grouse. I really wanted to touch on that for this holiday season of Valentine's Day. So my sources this week were the Audubon Society, Wikipedia, and the National Wildlife Federation.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks.
yeah. So we're going to take a break, and when we return, it'll be Victoria.
Hey, we're back. So this week, in honor of Valentine's Day, I'm going to talk about how warm, loving relationships can turn up in very unexpected places.
Okay.
In this case,
I'm intrigued.
in this case, I'm going to talk about giant poisonous rats.
What? I'm sorry. Did you say
Okay.
giant poisonous
Giant poisonous
rats?
rats?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, Rachel, we did hear that correctly. Good.
Awesome. Love that
Yeah.
for every... Okay. Okay. Sure.
They're actually
Continue.
fairly
Go on.
cute. Laphiomis imhousey is known as the maned rat or African crested rat, and they're pretty large. They're up to 36 centimeters long. That's about 14 inches, just their body. With the tail, it's longer.
Not the tail. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, they are really
That's big.
cute. That is a
And-
large rat, but they are really cute.
Yes. They have very fluffy fur that's gray, black, and white. And honestly, they look more like a cross between, I would say, like a skunk and a porcupine than what you would traditionally think of as a rat.
Yeah,
But
I'm
they
looking at
are-
a picture right now, and they don't have that like typical rat tail that you think of.
Right. They are rodents, though. They're rats. And they live in East Africa. And in East Africa, they've long had the reputation for being poisonous. And there are many anecdotes of animals, particularly dogs, getting sick or even dying after biting a crested rat. And
Oh, wow.
finally, in 2011, scientists confirmed what locals already knew. The rat has poisonous fur. And the most likely source of the
Poisonous
poison...
fur?
Yes. Yes.
Of course. Sure.
Dang.
That's okay.
So the most likely source of the poison is a tree known as the poison arrow tree. Go figure.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Makes
a
sense.
strong candidate, I would think.
Uh-huh.
So traditionally, have been used to make poison arrows to hunt game. in the regions where it grows.
Oh, I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, hence the name.
Right.
And actually, the tree is in the same family as milkweed.
Okay, that
Oh,
makes
wow,
sense.
okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, as you probably have heard, if you listen to this show, you know that monarch butterfly caterpillars feed exclusively on milkweed. And the bitter toxins in the milkweed make them unappealing to birds and other predators.
Yes.
And also the adults, because the toxins carry over from the caterpillar
Mhm.
stage. But the toxin from the poison arrow tree is actually closely related to the milkweed toxin, and they're in the same family of plants. So it turns out that the rats chew on the bark of the tree, and then they groom themselves with their toxin-laden saliva, and their hair is very specialized and porous and spongy, and it wicks up the saliva and stores the poison in their fur.
Saliva wicking fur. Lovely.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah,
Things
there's a
I
paper
wasn't
I was looking
expecting.
at. It showed the hairs under an electron microscope, and you could see the very porous structure of the hair. And they had like a time lapse series of photographs with the wicking action of the hairs. It was kind of cool.
Cool.
But the toxin doesn't
Huh.
seem to affect the rats. But if they encounter a predator, they will sort of attempt to get away. They can run fast, but they don't tend to run very fast if they don't have to. And they often choose not to, similar to what, say, a skunk might do or a porcupine. They will turn and confront the predator and kind of hiss. And they actually move their fur, and normally their fur kind of appears gray, but if they move their fur in the right way, it can show black and white stripes as a warning coloration.
Yeah. Wow. I'd seen photos of them with that black and white striping. I didn't realize that was something they could actually control. That's very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that was my
wild.
understanding. However, if the predator goes ahead and attacks, apparently it just takes a mouthful of fur for the poison to take effect quite quickly. And the effects can range from lack of coordination of the muscles to frothing at the mouth to death by apparent heart failure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's not great.
poor doggy.
Aw.
In addition, the rats have other adaptations that can help them survive being bitten. So they're kind of like, yeah, bite me, try it.
Bring
so
it
they-
on.
They have
Bite me.
very thick skin, and they have an extra tough skull and vertebrae. So all of this, I think it makes the crested rats sound very formidable.
Mm-hmm.
And scientists for a long time just thought that they were solitary and unsocial poisonous creatures. But in a paper that was published in 2020, some biologists from the US and Kenya found something very surprising. So they were trapping these crested rats to learn more about them. In particular, they wanted to prove that it was in fact the bark of this tree that was the source of the toxins, because that had just been hypothesized based on the analysis of their saliva, and nobody had
Mhm.
actually seen them chewing the bark. They wanted to trap the rats and give them some of this bark to see if they would chew on it and groom themselves for the cameras. But they had a tricky time finding good locations to trap these rats. Finally, they did start catching a few, and given what was thought about the rats at the time, being solitary, it wouldn't necessarily make sense to put a trap back in the same location after you just successfully caught one.
Right.
Sure, 'cause there shouldn't be any more there. Yeah, you got it.
Right, exactly. The territory would kind of be emptied out. But on a hunch or maybe a whim, I don't know, one of the scientists decided to reset a trap in the same location. And sure enough, she soon caught another crested rat.
Interesting.
And brought it to the lab and put it in a cage near the other rat that was also in a cage. And this is when the scientists noticed that the rats started purring and really behaving in all ways as
Aw.
if they wanted to be near to each other.
Aw.
Yeah. So
Well, that's sweet.
the scientists put them in the same cage, and they started grooming each other and acting all lovey-dovey.
Aw.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then they trapped more rats, and the same thing happened. And then they even trapped a couple rats at the same time, and even groups of 3. So they kept them in cages together in the lab, and all of these groups of rats were very affectionate. Like, they didn't put them all in one big cage, but the ones that seemed to be attracted to each other. Yeah, they were very affectionate. They spent lots of time purring and grooming each other and just like snuggling up together. There were occasional, very brief, aggressive interactions, sort of a marital spat, I guess, if you will. But these did seem to be like pair-bonded male and female pairs with some of their offspring. So it was just like big, happy rat families all snuggling together in the lab.
Oh,
It's so cute.
Yeah. And they did, in fact, observe the rats chewing the poison bark and grooming themselves. So they confirmed what they were looking to confirm and found something cool and interesting to add to it. So my sources this week were a couple papers that I referenced. One is called The Secret Social Lives of African Crested Rats in the Journal of Mammalogy from December 2020. And the other one was A Poisonous Surprise Under the Coat of the African Crested Rat in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B from August 2011. And also Science News. That's what I have this week.
Nice.
Nice. We knew they were such affectionate little critters.
Yeah.
Oh, so nice.
Well, we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we'll have something from Kirk.
Welcome back. So we've had these nice little stories this week about Valentine's Day. You know, it means different things, different people. For some people, it means nothing at all.
Exactly.
But, you know, it can be about romance. It can be about courtship. It can be about love. And of course, it can be about giant 12-hour long orgies.
Oh, no.
Gosh.
What's that you say? Not at your house? Well, frankly, not at mine either. But it's time for all of us to go down to Australia.
Oh,
good.
That's right, Rachel. We're going to Australia.
Beautiful. I'm in, but also I think I know where you're going with this, and I need to take it off my list, but I'm also just, dear Lord.
We'll see. I want to introduce you to the sexed up marsupial, the Antechinus.
Uh-huh.
Is that's on your list?
That's
Antechinus?
Beat you to it, the Antechinus. Yeah.
I have never heard of that animal.
A lot of people haven't. There is not much to say about the appearance of this week's weird animal. It isn't hideous. It isn't rainbow colored. It doesn't shoot flaming mucus out of its eyes. It's just a small, brown, furry mouse rat like looking critter from Eastern Australia.
Yep.
Kind of not so much unlike Victoria's critter. It doesn't have the stripes though. It looks like really unremarkable. The mouse/rat description.
It has a really long like nose. It has a longer nose and really
a little
pointed,
shrew-like maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those are all good descriptions. Mouse or rat describes both sort of the appearance and the size. There's actually some variation in the sizes, so they can range kind of all over those different sizes. As you may have guessed from my intro, though, what makes this animal interesting is not what it looks like. It is behavioral.
Oh, yeah.
Here in the Northern Hemisphere, we are in the dead of winter. There's been a number of different holidays celebrated on or near February 14th over the years. There's actually a lot of arguing among scholars as to like which ones were related to which ones and whatnot. But what we do see is that there have been several different historic celebrations in mid-February that celebrate like romance, love, and fertility. And indeed, spring is just around the corner. And at least here in North America, we'll soon have spring babies. This isn't the case, though, in Australia, where the time of fertility is more like July through September, sort of when they're having springtime down under, as it were. So that is when the Antechinus mates. And whoo boy, do they ever. So the first thing to note is that the females are monoestrous. So that means they all become ready to mate at the exact same time. The females
Wonderful.
are also not monogamous. They want to mate with as many males as possible. And the same thing is also true of the males. This is actually a classic example where basically spreading your genes as far and wide as possible maximizes the chance for those genes to survive. The females, incidentally, can give birth to litters with young from multiple different fathers.
Oh,
That's
fun.
pretty
This actually-
cool.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, this hedges their bets, right? They don't actually need to sort of compete to find the best male. They just mate with tons of males and, hoping that you get a bunch of good ones and that some of their offspring will survive. So it's a little bit different technique, but, definitely works. Antechinus actually comprise about 15 different species. So not every species is going to be exactly the same, but studies have demonstrated that let's just call it like a breeding frenzy, can last up to 12 hours
Yep.
or more in
Uh-huh.
some species. So that's
Or
right,
more.
12
Oh my God.
12
Sounds
hours
exhausting.
of breeding. Yeah, exactly. It's like
So
if-
tired
But here's
just
the
thinking
thing,
about
Victoria. If you think that sounds exhausting, you don't know the half of it.
it. Oh
You see-
no.
Antechinus don't have long lives.
No.
The females do live longer than the males, maybe a little over 2 years, but males only live 1 year or less. So this is literally their only chance to pass along their genes. If they're not successful in the first year, they will not survive long enough for a second chance. Once breeding is over, they literally have no purpose to live at that point, right?
Mhm.
So why not just leave it all on the table? During mating, the male's body is flooded with corticosteroids. This basically
Uh-huh.
allows them to use every bit of energy in their body and direct it toward mating. Everything else pretty much shuts off. So this flood of corticosteroids may be, I sort of think of it like the Antechinus version of Viagra, but the side effects are that once the party's over, the males die.
Yep.
In fact,
They're just like
they're-
so wrung out,
they're-
basically.
They
kind
drop
of-
dead.
they're kind of dying while it's happening, frankly.
Oh, that's
Uh,
horrifying.
Yeah, this 12-hour sexathon leads to the death of the entire male population, basically due to exhaustion. They are literally falling apart by the end. Their immune system is shut down, so they can get sick. They get ulcers. They can get gangrene. Basically, they sound like
In
sex
12
zombies by the
hours?
end. Well, I think things kind of start shutting down a little bit before that, even.
Okay.
Like their body's like, yep, we've made all this sperm we need to. Like, shut everything else down and let's go.
Wild.
So, I mean, they're dying by the end, but it is okay. I mean, that their job is done, right?
Mm-hmm.
The females, though, they have more work to do. They have to survive long enough to give birth and to wean the young. And there's variation in different species. Some females, like the ones that really only live like 1 year and then give birth and essentially die once they're weaned. There's those ones, and then there's a few species. I believe it's primarily some of the larger ones that do live over 2 years and are thus able to mate in 2 consecutive years. Now, one of the other really interesting little things about these critters is that it's kind of a little tidbit, or maybe I should say, use the more proper British English version, say titbit. Let's talk about nipples. So, nipple number is not consistent in Antechinus across the species. Researchers have found some species have anywhere from like 6 to 13 teats. So why the range? Well, let me put it this way. So Victoria, you have twins, right? Has
Yes.
raising 2 kids at the same time of the same age been a little stressful for you?
At times, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now imagine raising a dozen kids at the exact same time. Would that be pretty rough based on your experience?
Unimaginable. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, right. So the stress of having to raise so many young has been brought up as a possible reason why Antechinus females don't live very long. But interestingly, the ones with fewer teats, say just 6, are also the ones that can live for 2 years. So one could presume that raising a smaller litter is physically less exhausting and literally doesn't kill you in the process We could also, though, look at it from the other direction. If you only live 1 year, you need to maximize the number of offspring you create. If
Right.
you live 2 years,
Yeah.
you can, take it a little easier, not as much as riding on each mating season. You don't need to create and sustain as many young. So you can take more time with the 6 young and make sure they're
Mhm.
healthy. The outcome is actually the same numbers wise in the end, having
Mhm.
like 6 over 2 years or 12 in 1 year. Each is producing 12 offspring before they die. It's just like nature is finding 2 different solutions that both work, which I think is pretty cool. So
It is cool.
that's what I wanted to share with you. The Antechinus, totally bizarre,
Just, sure.
a wild time down under.
Uh-huh.
This is a story I've known about for a while and been wanting to talk about, but I as a source I also throw out there, I got a bunch of the specific numbers. I looked them up on Wikipedia, so it's a good source, a good starting a source for learning about Antechinus. But
Mm-hmm.
there's there's a lot out there. They are really extra.
Well, that is
That is
fascinating.
for sure. Yeah.
If rather grim.
Yeah, so I guess something to think about on Valentine's Day. You don't need to live up to the Antechinus.
Maybe don't.
in-
I don't
in
think you
any of
can
the ways.
live up to
In
the
any of the ways.
Antechinus. The
But,
Antechinus can't live up to Antechinus. They die in the
clearly,
end.
at least the men certainly can't. I don't recommend it. That's how their species does things. Maybe we should make different choices. Yeah, put it that way.
Uh-huh.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you to everybody for
Thanks.
stopping in this week.
Yeah, we will
Right.
see you all next week. Make sure you give us a follow on all of our social media, including our new Tumblr. Woo!
Yay!
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
If you're into that kind of thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.
Hey friends, this podcast is powered by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Are you thinking about starting your own podcast? Or maybe looking for the best home for your podcast? Check out all the amazing features Podbean offers with unlimited bandwidth and storage for an affordable price. That's right, unlimited. Visit podbean.com/strange to check it out today and get a month free. It's podbean.com/strange.